Hey guys, Drifter here. Today we're talking about the Call of Duty Code of Conduct, because Call of Duty is not exactly known for its positive and cheerful community. We're usually rated top 3, top 5 most toxic in gaming, and you gotta be honest, the Call of Duty community can definitely be toxic at times. But COD players are now getting straight up banned for it for the first time ever. They're actually being banned for talking trash, for being toxic and griefing and things like that. And there are very mixed community opinions about this. I got the idea from this video from Carnage16 the Great, so shout out to you. I'll link his channel down there below in the description. Thank you for the fantastic topic, and I think it's very relevant because voice chat, and especially proximity chat, is now a huge part of Call of Duty and Warzone 2, respectively. So there's always been the death chats where you can talk trash to people, but proximity chat in Warzone 2 is actually a pretty good game mechanic. The first time I played Warzone 2, I wasn't a fan of it. I had a lot of it turned off. I was kind of negative on the idea for reasons that we'll talk about later, but I got to be wrong in the best possible ways, eat my own words, and some of my favorite Warzone 2 videos have been proximity chat trolling, working with randoms in proximity chat, and stuff like that. And it's actually been a really positive, fun mechanic that I think brings the whole community together, but there is a sort of toxicity problem because not everybody is fun to play with, and it's also a great microcosm of the larger debate that's going on with free versus police speech on Twitter and other social media websites on the internet. So before we dive in, let's read through the Call of Duty Code of Conduct and get some basics for understanding what Activision is asking of their players. Probably seen this when you first booted up the game. Number 1 says treat everyone with respect. It says we do not tolerate bullying, harassment, including derogatory comments based on race, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, age, culture, faith, mental or physical abilities, or country of origin. All of our members of our community should be treated with dignity and respect. Then there's one about competitive integrity, about not cheating, good clean gameplay, don't grief, don't hack. And then there's one about staying vigilant and being sure to use all of the tools to report people that are cheating or maybe just being toxic, like a hall monitor. And yeah, that's really it. But the big one, I think people are happy when cheaters get banned, but the one that really throws people a curveball is this treat everybody with respect. Because now you can absolutely get perma-banned from Call of Duty for being homophobic or racist or toxic, whereas in the past that wasn't really the case. And I'll basically talk about how each part of this kind of makes me feel. And initially, I kind of hate being policed. I don't like being told what to do. I especially don't like being told what I can't do. And I do love talking trash to people. For those of you that watch me stream, you might see me do this in my own positive Twitch-friendly way. Off stream, I'm sometimes a little bit less friendly, but it's a fun thing to do, to just load up into a lobby and talk trash with the people there. It happens sometimes, and it's fun sort of within limits. And on a different hand, I also paid for this game, my real money. So I don't like being told what I can do with it. I like to feel like I'm in school with Activision, just there with a ruler getting ready to spank me like an angry nun. And I also think that talking trash is an actual skill. If you want to see somebody who's a master at doing this without getting banned, you can check out Legion on Twitch. Trash talk is an art. And sometimes it's people's whole reason to play. They just love getting on, getting in arguments, being like a little toxic, starting some stuff. And it's kind of fun, to be quite frank with you. One of the reasons that I'm here on YouTube doing what I do is that I met a ton of people on Xbox Live, and talking to them and arguing with them and dealing with these situations in Xbox Live lobbies actually helped me develop better public speaking skills, which I'm now putting to use here on YouTube. Speaking of Xbox Live, I gotta tell you, I miss the magic days of Xbox Live, especially when it first came out. It shipped with a built-in, fully functional, good-to-go microphone, just the one phone on the ear and the thing down by the mic by the face, in the box. So 99% of people were using a mic. It was on all the time. Every lobby, if you joined a 12-player lobby, at least 11 of them would have mics and would talk to you. And it was super fun. You could just join new lobbies. You could meet new people. There were definitely toxic people. There were definitely rude and mean people. I was 13 years old when Xbox Live came out. You don't want to see the things that I got banned for then. My God, I'll probably get canceled if Microsoft ever decrypts some of the nasty things I said to people when I was a little 13-year-old kid, you know. but it was still fun. And through that process, I learned how to behave better because when I was a dick to people, nobody would hang out or talk to me. I ended up making a whole ton of friends on Xbox that would stay online friends, some of them later becoming real life friends, a number of them actually. And it was sort of a magic time that you could just hop on your console and meet 40 new people in a night if you wanted to, and they're all there with mics talking. Now, this didn't last for long. As soon as there was a market for this, Turtle Beach and Astro came in. I am sponsored by Astro, by the way. They make some excellent headsets. I've got a review of some coming out soon. But one of the things that did is it moved people off of the game mics and onto the headsets, and they wouldn't necessarily use the headset mic for the game because they would use it for streaming. So between those two, the Xbox Live voice chat started to dwindle down, and more people were not using mics. And then the toxicity was probably the final straw, because if you played Call of Duty back in the day on Xbox Live, you know exactly the type of toxicity that I'm talking about, and it's exactly so bad I can't even describe it here on YouTube or I will get demonetized. That encouraged a lot of people to turn their microphones off. But Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2 is bringing it back. Dude, they're bringing back they're bringing back basically proximity chat and death chat, which gives you an actual reason to plug in your mic and use it for the first time ever. And it's quite fun. But what I think Activision is worried about is that they're worried that their new fun little proximity chat feature is going to go backwards in time, back to the old Xbox Live days. And I got to tell you, I've heard the N-word more times in clan matches in Xbox Live than I have at clan rallies. It is not easy being a minority in gaming, or anybody with an easily discernible accent, or a woman for that matter. As recently as 2016, I think, I was playing Overwatch with my wife and Ali Mew and several other female gamers. It was a fun squad. But we would join a group and everybody would say hi and introduce themselves. And all the time there would be this one guy who goes ballistic because there's a woman on the team. And I don't mean the standard, oh, we've got a woman, well, they'll probably play bad, we're going to lose, or go get me a sandwich. But I mean like mental breakdown, screaming, kill yourself, women aren't even people, obscenities all over the place the moment they hear a female voice. And it was so bad, Overwatch had to roll out its own like Blizzard terms of service and stuff like that. And I think Call of Duty is trying to avoid that, because Overwatch was initially very positive and then it descended into insane toxicity, and Activision doesn't want the proximity chat to have that sort of insane toxicity. And I will now shift gears. I was kind of talking about it mostly from I enjoy trash talk and I enjoy being able to argue with people and be a dick sometimes. But there's the other end of that. So as many of you know, I've been a little bit sick recently, and I had an experience a couple of months ago where I hadn't been able to game in a long time. And when I could game, I could only get in like 1 or 2 a day, and I would get on and be like, all right, this is my one game I can play today. And I would get in a lobby full of toxic people that said horrible things to me. And it made me feel very bad, because the 15 minutes that I had to spare to do my favorite thing in the world, which is gaming, was ruined by a bunch of people that were being dicks. And I think this is the same experience that most people who have jobs or go to have a demanding high school or go to college and stuff like that have, is that they come home, they're done with all their work and their adult stuff, and they've got time for 30 minutes to an hour of gaming, and the last thing they want to do is hop on and get called racial slurs in a lobby. Unfortunately, these kind of experiences are not really rare. I mean, that's why I've personally had my game chat turned off for years now, because it was so bad, I was afraid of getting banned on Twitch or YouTube because of what people would say in the lobbies. I think that Twitch actually added exceptions for that, but it's still something that I sought to avoid. It can make a good video or a good clip maybe less monetizable. So what I think Activision's goal with the code of conduct and with banning people that are being toxic and racist and stuff like that is to create a safer space for gamers. Not quite a safe space. We don't have the kid gloves on. You can still talk trash in Call of Duty, but they want it safer. They want to keep the big bads out. They don't want people being bullied for their race and gender and orientation and stuff like that. And the idea is that anybody can play without harassment, which makes total sense from a business perspective. The business sets the bar for behavior on their platform, and I guarantee you that bar is set at whatever accounting determined as the maximum level of profitability to keep the most people without kicking out the most people. So the idea here is to create a space that's attractive for people to want to come and play in. And if you don't play nice, you can catch a fat ban for being toxic now, which was super rare before. If you were toxic in Call of Duty, you primarily console, it would really be whatever Sony or Microsoft's rules were. Activision didn't really care because you know, the consoles were self-policing, and that was like 95% of people. But times have changed with crossplay and the explosion of PC and a little bit less enforcement from consoles these days. So a little bit weird, and it's got to be surprising to some people. It's got to be absolutely shocking, especially gamers that have just been toxic for years, that have been horrible, nasty little cretins living in their mom's basement, just living for the day to get online and ruin somebody's experience. And now they're like, I'm banned? How could this happen to me? And I think that this whole video and this whole concept is actually a really good microcosm of the larger debate that we're seeing about what's happening at Twitter, with Twitter's censorship, with Elon Musk censoring various things at Twitter, and then even greater than that, the greater internet of the debate on free speech versus hate speech or protected speech. So free speech includes the right to offend people. It's a very important right that I've talked about here a lot on this channel. And free speech includes a lot of what people would also call hate speech. There is overlap there, and hate speech can be free. However, people who create platforms draw their own speech lines. They don't necessarily want all of their users offended, and they most certainly don't want hate speech. It tends to be bad for business and branding and safety and lawsuits and blah, 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 blah. So most businesses choose some restrictions, since they are sort of the kings of their own private little king of their own territory. They can draw the lines in the sand and they can make the rules. And most of them choose something very similar to what Activision and Twitter and big platforms had, where you can't just be racist and bigoted and stuff like that, but regular trash talk goes. But then the debate becomes when these platforms become so massive that they're essential tools of communication for people, essentially replacing cell phones and more traditional municipal communications. Should private businesses even be allowed to police people's speech and what they do? And then the debate becomes like, okay, you would say in an absolute version, no, maybe they shouldn't. And then what if they couldn't? What if we had to allow Nazis in Call of Duty? What if we had to allow deplorable people? What if it was illegal for me to mute people and I had to sit into a lobby and listen to terrible stuff all the time? That's kind of what's happening on some social media websites. So I just wouldn't do it, and it's bad for the business. So there's a lot of give and take there, a lot of unpleasant ideas. And my personal opinion, how I actually feel about this at the end of the video, unsurprisingly, I think a Call of Duty code of conduct is about a decade overdue. This code of conduct is very basic, very normal for the internet that we interact with, and basically the things that you would get banned for on Call of Duty are probably the things you would get punched in the face for in real life. So I'm not surprised with this, and I'm very happy. I'm kind of glad that Call of Duty finally has a code of conduct, because it used to be a godless wasteland out there, an absolute free-for-all. So having a simple code of conduct that weeds out the super toxic people is good for, honestly, it's good for my content, it's good for the brand, it's good for sponsorships and branding opportunities, and it will result in a net positive more amount of people playing the game. So that's just my opinion on it. I tried to explain both sides somewhat fairly. I think I was a little bit more heavily on the side of why we do need a TOS, but I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, or check out my sponsors. Drifter out!